What is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be going over 5 things that Fortnite pros don't tell you about going pro in Fortnite. Being a pro is an aspiration that many Fortnite players have, at least to some degree, and trust me, I totally get it. Some of these guys make a ton of money, they're legitimately famous, and they literally get to play video games for a living. Many people wouldn't agree, but it's actually fairly similar to being a professional athlete in many aspects. But when it comes to actually becoming a pro, it definitely isn't as straightforward as it may seem. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so the first thing that pros probably wouldn't tell you about what it takes to go pro is how much time you need to put in on a daily basis. So I'm definitely not a pro player myself, but I know and talk to a couple of legitimate pros on a fairly frequent basis, so I can personally attest to how much time they really put into the game. Sometimes it will literally be an all-day affair, and I'm 100% serious when I say that. They'll wake up, play creative or arena for like 3 to 4 hours straight, then maybe take a break for lunch or dinner depending on what time of the day they woke up, then they'll play another 3 to 4 hours of scrims, arena, whatever, take another small break for another meal, then finish off the day with a final session of scrims on a different game mode or whatever they haven't already played. I mean, plain and simple, that is just an insane amount of playtime, and it's a consistent everyday thing. It's rare that you see any of these top pros not play the game at all for anything more than like 2 to 3 days in a row. I love Fortnite, and it's definitely my favorite video game of all time, but if I had to play it for 8+ hours a day pretty much every day, there's no doubt in my mind that I would begin to just absolutely despise it, and I think the majority of people would agree with that sentiment. And that pure amount of hours put in on a per day daily basis is actually one of the biggest differentiators between being a pro gamer and a pro athlete. Here's a controversial statement that I'm sure at least a decent amount of people will disagree with, but honestly I'm about 99.9% sure it's true. Over the last 2 to 3 years, guys like Clicks, Benji, Booga, really any top pro honestly, those guys have put more time into Fortnite than pretty much any major athlete has in their sport. More hours than LeBron's put into basketball, more hours than Brady or Mahomes has put into football, so on and so forth. With all those spots, there's a physical limitation to how much you want to play in any given day. You don't want to be practicing football, basketball, soccer, or any sport for 8 to 10 hours a day because your body would start to break down on you at an alarmingly fast rate. With a video game like Fortnite, on the other hand, you can play 10 to 12 hours straight with really no physical repercussions at all. The effect it has on your mental state is a whole other story, but let's just leave it at that. So I know playing Fortnite all day may sound like an absolute dream to a lot of people, but I think it can be really underestimated the time that these guys put in. It isn't a 2 to 3 hour scrim session and then doing whatever you want for the rest of the day. It's probably more like the opposite. 1 2 to 3 hour break and then playing Fortnite for the entire rest of the day. The next thing that pros won't tell you about going pro is how hard it is to stay as a pro once you make it. I don't think I've ever seen a competitive game with less consistency when it comes to the top 5 to 10 players in the world at any given time. If you were to go back even just 1 to 2 years in the past and take a look at a list of the top 10 competitive Fortnite players at the time and then compare it to a list of the top 10 players now, my guess is that you'd see barely any overlap at all. Definitely not none because guys like Saf, Zayd, Mitro, Benji, and a few others have been towards the top for a while, but other than that, you're just constantly seeing players rise and fall in the rankings on what seems like a monthly basis. And I actually think that's a really good thing for the competitive side of the game as a whole. In my opinion, the main reason why it's so hard to consistently stay at the top is because Fortnite's one of the few games where pretty much every tournament has an open qualifier. There are literally millions of competitive Fortnite grinders out there, so if you slack at all, it's insane how quick these top players can be overtaken by people who were relatively unknown a few months ago. Other games like COD have leagues where as long as you're on a pro team, your spot in the top tournaments is always going to be guaranteed. On Fortnite, that isn't the case at all, and it's why you see even super top level pros miss out on grand finals all the time. Another aspect of going pro that people don't really know about is the importance of having a good friend group, and there's really two main reasons for that. First off, having a friend group filled with other really good players near your skill level is so important for practicing and improving. Because these pros have so many really good friends, they can get a 1v1 or full Zone Wars lobby of insane players with like one Discord message. Someone without a great friend group would have to try to find random people in Discords, maybe post on Twitter, and worst case scenario, may even just need to play creative fill, which will probably result in not a super skilled lobby. The other really important positive of having a great friend group, especially at the pro level, is that it gives you connections, and that's crucial when it comes to getting in the pro level Discord scrim servers, or for finding duo, trio, and squad partners for events. As the saying goes, sometimes it's more about who you know than what you know, and this is really the case here. The next sort of secret about going pro in Fortnite, or really any video game for that matter, is at least to some degree, genetics do play a factor. A few months ago, a popular Fortnite pro named GronKy created a bit of drama by basically saying that natural talent matters more than practice for Fortnite. Now I think that's kinda overboard, because if that was the case, then players wouldn't have to play 8 to 10 hours a day sometimes to stay at the top, and also you would never see pros quote unquote fall off, because it's not like you can just lose natural talent. So even though I think what he said was pretty heavily flawed, there is definitely some truth to it. There are just some pros out there that can pick up a game they've never played before, and they'll instantly be better than someone who's grinded for weeks and maybe even months. It could be faster reaction time, better natural hand-eye coordination, faster brain processing power, some combination of that. Now luckily, it's not like pro sports where you need to be a top 0.001% athlete on the planet to even have a shot, but genetics and natural talent do matter for going pro. It's just a question of how much, and for sure there's no definitive answer to that. The final thing that many people don't realize about going pro in Fortnite especially, is that for the most part, the younger the better. I remember back in 2019 during the Fortnite World Cup, someone crunched the numbers and the average age of every player that made the finals for solos and duos was like 14 years old or something. As I've said a few times before, Fortnite is probably the most mechanically intensive competitive game that I've ever seen, and it turns out that once you hit like 11 or 12 years old really, that's when it's actually the easiest for you to build muscle memory quickly. It's a big reason why most of the older pros, and it's hilarious that in Fortnite old is like 19 or 20, those guys really rely on having high IQs and game sense. But the younger pros who are just entering their teen years are typically the most mechanically gifted and quote-unquote cracked players. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down the comment section below. What do you think about the points I made in this video? Is there one specific one that you either strongly agree or disagree with? Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.